Siyanamukela ohlelweni lwe-Ithala Edu platform enilethulelwa ngezilokotho ezinhle Ithala kanye ne-Go Digital SA Foundation. Thamelani izifundo ze-mathematics, i-accounting, isiZulu ulimi lwasekhaya, isiNgisi, i-FAL, i-physical science, i-geography, ezobuchwepheshe, i-computer applications technology kanye namaklasi e-learner wellness okungukuzilolonga ngokomqondo kanye nomzimba. Lezi zifundo zethulwa nsuku zonke kusukela ngoMsombuluko kuya ngoLwesihlanu kuqala ngehora lesi-4 kuya kwelesihlanu u-4 kuya ku-5 ntambama nangomgqibelo kusukela ligamanxe ihora lesi-8 8:30 kuze kugamanxe ihora lokuqala emini 1:30. Zithameleni futhi lezi zifundo emsakazweni Ukhozi FM njalo ngoLwesine kusukela ngo-9 kuya ku-10 ebusuku. Ningangena ekhasini lethu lika-Facebook elithi Go Digital SA_movement noma kwi-YouTube uthi Go Digital SA Foundation. Siyethemba nizolijabulela lolu hlelo oluhlose ukunifundisa futhi lulekelele kulokho enikufunda ezikoleni zenu. Luthokozeleni ke lolu hlelo nimeme nabo bonke abanye abafundi bebanga le-12 grade 12 ukuze nabo bazuze kulo futhi nonke nicitsheleke ukuphumelela kwizivivinyo zenu zokuphela konyaka.
Good morning, sanibonani. Ngumgqibelo ekuseni bafundi baka grade 12. Sesiyawugoqa unyaka. Nama-exams that they are just around the corner. I hope si-ready, siyazilungiselela. Namhlanje our lesson senza yana paper 2. We are doing a short story Next Door. Next door ke kuba umakhelwane umuntu ohlala eceleni kwakho. But ke in this case there are two families. Nama families are two. We have the Leonards and we have the Haggards. Bahlala in such a way ukuthi njobe next door bahlukaniswe nje just a thin wall between them. Shutho omunye ngala so lo ongale they don't have to make noise because uma bangumsindo lo ngala uzozo because into ebahlukanisile nje it's just a thin wall. Okay, I'll read the summary and then bese siya analyze ke story. Summary iti Mr. and Mrs. Leonard and their 8-year-old son Paul stay in a house that is partitioned. If a house is partitioned partitioned into two by a thin wall, so ihlukaniswe nje udonga oluncane oluthin olwenza ukuthi umuntu mayikhuluma ngala uyakwazi ukumuzwa, so you have to mind ukuthi ukhuluma kanjani nezinto zenza ngala. Next door to the Leonards is the Haggards. So ama Leonards ngala, ama Haggards ngapha. Both families must speak softly. Uma bekhuluma fanele bakhulume kancane because the wall separating them is very thin. Into efanele udonga indlela oluncane ngalo bahlukanisile. Umuntu whatever kwenzayo noma uyakhuluma noma wenzani fanele akhulumele phansi ukuze angadisturb umakhelwane wakhe next door. Okay, sithi ama Leonards, they've got a son, Paul, who is 8 years old. So the Leonards, they decide to go to a movie. Bahamba bayobuka a movie in the evening. So Paul is left alone at home. Bamshiya yedwa Paul ekhaya. While Mr. and Mrs. Leonard, that is ama parents akhe, they go out to watch a movie. Mrs. Leonard leaves emergency numbers. Uyabazi omama they always worry ukuthi hayibo ingane nami incane kwathini. So she leaves ama emergency numbers ukuthi if in case kwenzeka noma yini Paul must phone emergency numbers to call if there's an emergency. All right. Paul is playing with his microscope. Uhleli ke la ekhaya udlala ubhizi microscope yakhe when he hears a man and a woman fighting next door. Remember, stay next door kuhlala ama Haggards. So njobe hleli la esabhizi microscope yakhe njobe sele yedwa ekhaya, he hears a noise, there's a fight, and he can hear with ama voices of a man and a woman. So he assumes Ucabanga ukuthi labantu abalwayo Mr. and Mrs. Hager. The sound coming from the radio and the couple's voices become loud and unbearable. Kune radio ngala iyadlala night DJ ngalana kunomsindo, so akasakwazi ukuconcentrate kule nto ayenzayo. So after failing to stop the fight by banging the wall, uyahamba ufika ushaya udonga, like he is trying to warn them ukuthi please ngicela nehlisa ama voices. So uyakuchaya lokho akwenzeki, yaqhubeka umsindo ne radio la ibanga umsindo, nabo they are fighting. So he decides to do what? Angithi la abazali bamshiye bethu mncane uPaul no 8 years, but he is matured. At 8 years old he decides ukuthi wenze njani. He calls an all night Sam. Sam is the DJ odlala eRadio ebusuku. Paul, and then my mfonela all night Sam, he pretends engathi uyingane yamahackers lawa alwayo. He pretends to be the child of the hackers, trying to bring his parents together. Ucabanga ukuthi njoba belwa nje mhlambe khona misunderstanding. So now njoba efonela all night Sam, he pretends like he is their child. Uzama ukuthi abenze njani ababuyisele together abazali bakhe. Okay, the DJ then tells his listeners, DJ ke umfonela DJ yangithi DJ, and then usitshela ama listeners akhe over the radio about the request he has just received. He requests eqhamuka kuPaul to bring a couple back together. Okay. After the radio goes off, Paul hears another argument between the couple and the sound of a gunshot. Uthema phone uPaul wathi yena he is the child of the hackers. And he is lying because uthi uzama to bring ama parents akhe together njengoba elwa nje. So abese ashoke DJ Sam ukuthi ene uthole request, there's a boy ozama to bring his parents together. And then uthema iqeda ukwenza le request, what happens? After the radio goes off, Paul hears another argument between the couple and the sound of a gunshot. Uthe sahleli because bese hayibo shuthi labantu sengizamile ukuthi babuyisele together. Angithi nabo bayilalela iRadio la the couple lelwayo. No Paul na uyilalela. So uthe mayiqeda iRadio kuthula, and then he hears a gunshot. He was so worried. I-gunshot shuthi itshela ukuthi hey sasiyenza iphutha, shuthi thina sino DJ Sam sesibulele umuntu. Because it gunshot, it's from next door, from the hackers that were fighting. From what Paul can hear, the woman, Charlotte, is not Mr. Hacker's wife. Aha. So when again, kushutu Mr. Hacker is cheating. His wife is not at home. There was a misunderstanding. So unkosikazi moved out, Mrs. Hacker. So lo muntu ababanga naye umsindo la is the girlfriend ka Mr. Hager. So ungenkathi uPaul efonela uSam telling him ukuthi he's trying to bring his parents together, uyezwa uCharlotte the girlfriend. So girlfriend becomes so angry, then she fires a gunshot 3 times. Ukhombisa ukuthi kushuthi ungenza isilima, kushuthi vele usaconnectana nonkosikazi wakho, because wayicabanga ukuthi uyena sewumakho yena sela ekhaya. Okay, she fires a gunshot. From what Paul can hear, the woman Charlotte is not Mr. Hacker's wife. Useyezwa ke manje uthi hayibo again Mrs. Hacker lo. And then uthe sathukile after hearing the gunshot, aphuma uPaul in his room endlini leya kubo. Uthe mayethi nje epassage he meets uCharlotte, this girlfriend. uCharlotte ke is a bully. Uyambullisha umfana, uyambona ukuthi umfana osemncane. So what does she do? Charlotte offers Paul a bribe. Umnika ibribe, umnika imali. A bribe for him to keep quiet about the incident. Ukuthi angasho lutho, because uyazi if there's a gunshot automatically obani abazofika, because the next doors nabanye abantu abaseduzane bazokuzwa umsindo. Obviously who are they going to call? Bazofonela the police, and automatically amaphoyisa vela azofika. So uyabribe, umnika imali ukuthi angasho lutho, to keep quiet about the incident. And then the police come, afika amaphoyisa. Mr. Hacker and Paul denied having had any gunshots. Uthema iphuma uPaul after uCharlotte semfakele imali waphuma wahamba. then amaphoyisa afika amaphoyisa bangaphandle uPaul no Mr Haga. So Mr Haga he pretends uthi kuPaul, "Ayibo, have you been playing with your father's gun again, son? Udlala ngayi?" Because uyazi ukuthi again uPaul okade farisha igun, but it was the girlfriend. And then Paul denies that again. And then they both deny, Paul no Mr Haga, they both deny kumaphoyisa ukuthi they had a gunshot. All right. Mrs Haga comes back. Angithi ke ngathi DJ edlala over the radio. Mrs Haga is also listening to the radio. Lo kade ihambile. Then she hears ukuthi hayibo nangu the husband is pleading for her to come back home. So wenzekani la Mrs Haga comes back ngaso leso sikhathi. She comes back home thinking that the message she heard on the radio was from Mr Haga to her. Ucabanga ukuthi le message le engenile over the radio iqhamuka kukhona kanti it was Paul trying ukuthi kube ne peace lapha la kuliwa khona. So there is an irony la, you understand? Paul is happy to have his parents take it after that, and then the parents came back from the movies, Mr. and Mrs. Leonard, they came back from the movies, but Paul, to show that he's now a bit matured, what does he do? He does not tell them anything. Akabatshela abazali bakhe about the incident. Shuthi kena it's an adventure. Uyabona ukuthi usekhulile manje, it's an adventure ukuthi ukwazile to do what, to keep a secret. It's an adventure which proves that he has indeed grown up. Usekhulile from what they think he is. Ukwazile ukuthi athi keep a secret. Angathi excuse me, angathi tell ukuthi what really happened. All right, next door. Kunama themes amaningi la. Let's look at the themes in this short story. Ama themes nje. Eyokuqala it is the conflict. There is a conflict here. I conflict ibangwa yini la? It is the conflict between the Leonards. The conflict is between the parents, the mother and the father kaPaul. The conflict eyani ukuthi umama thinks uPaul is still a baby, usayingane, and yet uba kwakhe uwazi ukuthi uPaul is a grown up, abamiyeke bangamtreat njengengane. So there's a conflict between the Leonards on how to treat Paul. All right, eyokuqala leyo. Eyesibili, another conflict. Eyesibili is there's a conflict between Mr. and Mrs. Haga. Angithi they didn't see eye to eye. Waze wathutha umama uHaga waphuma ekhaya. So there's a conflict between the two of them. Kukhona ungezwani futhi phakathi kwabo babili. And then there is also another conflict enye futhi. Eyokuqala is between the Leonards, the parents, right? As we have just mentioned. Eyesibili is between Mr. and Mrs. Haga, joba ehambile the wife washiya ekhaya. And then eyesithathu is between Mr. Haga ne girlfriend yakhe uCharlotte. Because bagcina sebenjani, bagcina sebela, there is a conflict between him and his mistress uCharlotte. And then I fight yabo again, jobabela nje, it is so loud and it takes up much of the story. Story sonke nje next door. I fight yabo, as they fight, there is a noise, kufonelwa DJ kuze kufika amaphoyisa. So I fight yabo, it takes most of the story because the ababoni ngeso elilodwa. All right. Eyesibili ngithe ama themes eyokuqala is conflict. I've mentioned ama conflicts akhona. And then eyesibili there is appearance okubukeka kuyikhona versus reality. Kune conflict, there is appearance, and also it's versus reality. Okay. At the beginning of the story, Mr. Haga next door, it's like he appears to be living with his wife. Engazi usuhlala nobani nonkosikazi wakhe, and as yet unkosikazi wakhe doesn't stay at home because baxabene. There is appearance here, he appears to be living with his wife, which is not true. And then it's like they are having an argument. Okay. Later, reality ke isiyavela ke manje. Appearance is like he was living with his wife and then they had an argument, but in reality iyaveza ke ekugcineni because kwenzekani la. Later it is discovered that the woman that he is fighting with la alwa naye is not his wife but his mistress. So there is appearance, there is reality. Kukhona oku right, kukhona ongekho right. Appearance, it's like he is living with his wife, and yet his wife is not there. Uhambile wamshiya, and then umuntu alwa naye kahle kahle. Reality is it is this mistress uCharlotte. Okay, and then another theme, there is a loss of innocence. There is a loss of innocence la. The loss of innocence. The child, the 8-year-old, Paul, he looks innocent because baza abazali bakhe ukuthi akazi lutho. He's just a baby. But he appears innocent eqaleni Paul. And he also appears naive. If you are naive, it means you lack experience and you lack wisdom because you are still very young. So there is a loss of innocence because he appears to be innocent and naive. But wenzani? But he is very wise. There is a loss of innocence because he is very wise. Kanjan, ukhombise ngokuhlakanipha ukuthi he is no longer naive. He is no longer lacking wisdom. What did he do? He came up with a plan to call the night DJ Sam. There is a fight next door. Then he came up with a plan which I know. Let me phone the DJ. Sikwazi ukuthi resolve lenkinga le eka next door to show ukuthi and he's no longer innocent, he's no longer young, but he acts matured. Ukhombisa ukuthi uyingane esinjani esikhulile. And also when he's confronted, ngikathi kufika iphoyisa lifika la lithi awusuzange umsindo wesibhamu. When he's confronted with the danger of njoba kade kuqhuma isibhamu, behave njengengane. He says he didn't hear any sound because he is afraid of Charlotte, and in as much as himself Charlotte, but reveal to the police that he had a gunshot. Okhombisa ukuthi unjani, he has grown up. What he decides to do, he decides to play along. No, Charlotte, ne plan yakhe, and he ends up he ends up lying. Atakazange, he doesn't. He didn't hear any gunshot, and when his parents come back, akabatsheli. So now usekhulile sokwazi ukwenzani to keep him a secret at 8 years. He doesn't tell his parents ukuthi kwenzekeni. He pretends like ubebhizi nje microscope yakhe for the whole evening. Okay. Let's look at the setting. How is the story told? Okay. The setting la yenzeka kuphi yonke lento, all these incidents. It happens in a subdivided house. They are next doors, bahlukaniswe a thin wall. Then the families, ngalana it is the Leonards, and ngapha it is the Haggards. So bahlala next door to each other. All that is separating them is the thin wall. That is why they don't have to make noise. Umuntu angabangeli umakhelwane wakhe umsindo. All right. Exposition. What are we looking at? Exposition. There are two families, the Leonards and the Haggards. They live in a house that is divided by a thin partition. A partition with a thin wall. And there is no privacy. Kahle kahle awukwazi ukukhuleka kakhulu ngala nangala because whatever okwenzayo no ngala futhi uzokwenzani uzokuzwa. And also the parents baga Paul, the Leonards, what do? They disagree whether Paul has grown up to be left alone at home. Ubaba wakhe uthi umfana ukhulile singamshiya because you cannot expose him kule movie siyayona. Uma wakhe pretend wazi ukuthi ingane yakhe is still innocent, ingane yakhe isencane. But eventually what happens? Eventually Paul uyashiwa yedwa ekhaya when his parents go to the movies. All right. And then there is rising action. Rising action, shuthi after sebemshiyile, what happens? We know ukuthi inkathi ene sebemshiyile abazali. What happens? He overhears. Uzwa a fight. There is a fight between a man and a woman. In this case, the fight is between Mr. Hager and his mistress, Charlotte, not Mrs. Hager. And they are fighting next door. So what does he do? He decides to stop the fight. How does he stop the fight? Wenzenjani? He calls the night DJ, the all night Sam DJ. Uguti, there are people that are going to kill each other. So he pretends to be their child, and he wants all night Sam Uguti to bring the couple together. Ingal. And then a message, DJ, what he does, he plays a message over the radio. A message from, it's like a message. DJ, I broadcast over the radio. It's like it is from Mr. Hager to Mrs. Hager. And then Paul again, into emenza ukuthi azamfonele DJ is because he fears uyasaba ukuthi the people next door might end up benzani killing each other. Okay, and then we get to the climax. What happens with climax? And then he hears, after he has phoned DJ, now he hears a gunshots, uzaqhuma 3 times. And then because we are saying, hey, they've committed a murder, Beno DJ Sam, it means somebody has died. And then he runs out because he runs out into the hall, a passage. When he hears the 3 gunshots. And then he bumps into Charlotte, the mistress ka Mr. Hager. He bumps into her. And then Charlotte is not being nice. Akekho nice enganeni. Paul is only 8 years old. But Charlotte uyambamba, he threatens him. Umtshela ukuthi he must keep quiet. Angakayi asho ukuthi he had any gunshot. And then uyambribe. Uyamthenga umbribe umnika imali. She searches from her purse. I keep imali. The normal fits the notes that she gets from her purse and a perfume. Shuthi yonke into la uyifake phakathi wakhipha ke wamnika wayithatha kusemali uyifake phakathi. And then the police they arrived. Afika amaphoyisa, they knocked at both apartments. Banokha ngala ka Leonard, banokha ngala ka Hager. And then they both lied. Kwenzekani ke manje resolution? What happens? Angithi ngathi all night Sam edlala i-broadcast over the radio. Mrs. Hager is listening. Ulalele naye over the radio, and then she hears ukuthi umkhwena wakhe is pleading for her, uyamncenga ukuthi akabuyele ekhaya, which is not true because again Mr. Hager of Onelitis Paul. So what happens, Mrs. Hager? She returns home. Uyafika la ekhaya after listening to a message on radio. And then okunye futhi okuthusayo ukuthi uPaul ngenkathi ezwa igunshot, he concluded nje ukuthi khona ofile, and to him, because uzwile ukuthi the voices abantu abalayo is the woman and the man, so uyitshela ukuthi one of these people has died. So ngenkathi evula umnyango, he is surprised. Yini emthusayo when he sees, angithi uthe uma evula umnyango wahlangana noCharlotte lo mthreatenishayo mistress, so which means uCharlotte is gone. So in his mind utshela ukuthi kusho ukuthi Mr. Hager is dead because he heard the gunshots. But when he opens the door, there is Mr. Hager emile lapha with his bald head nempandla yakhe nenwele sezincane ekhanda. And then uyathuka, he's surprised to see Mr. Hager ukuthi hayibo kanti he's still alive. Kusho ukuthi and this woman didn't kill him. So could say after that they denied, they both denied. Paul Beno Mr. Hager, they denied ukuthi no, they didn't hear any gunshots. The text enjalo, and then his parents, the Leonards, Paul's parents, they came back. Bayabuya ekhaya from the movies, and ngenkathi bebuya, umama, angithi umama akazi ukuthi in this short space of time, Paul has just matured. Wenza into abengayicabanga ukuthi ingane yakhe ngayenza, and Paul is not prepared to reveal, to tell them ukuthi kwenzekeni. So uma ngathi ebuya yena usaqhubeka treata uPaul njengengane encane, usesha amaphakethe akhe, she's expecting ukuthi lapha emphakatheni mhlawumbe uzothola the frogs, amaxoxo amancane, whatever. And then but ephaketheni kaPaul khona there is money. Imali ayiniko bani? Ayiniko uCharlotte, because uCharlotte was bribing her. Was bribing him ukuthi angakhulumi. So she still continues to treat uPaul like a baby. And then but ubaba wakhe, he has confirmed ukuthi Paul is no longer a child, but he is a big boy now, although he doesn't know ukuthi kwenzekeni ngoba uPaul doesn't reveal. Okay, let's look at the characterization. Characterization. Characters la, we have uPaul, this 8-year-old boy. How does he act? He acts independent. Akanandaba ukuthi he's 8 years old nokuthi ushiwe abazali bakhe yedwa endlini. He is independent. He doesn't mind being left alone at home. And unjani, we find him ukuthi Paul is also sensitive and caring. Why do we say that he's sensitive and caring? Because when he hears an argument, we as there's a woman and a man fighting, so he becomes sensitive and caring, and then he decides to call the all-night DJ to resolve an issue between the people that are fighting. So he tries to stop the fight next door, and then he also shows what he is now matured. Ukhombisa immaturity, and also he's not only matured, but he also shows that he is intelligent. He calls intelligence because he calls the all-night Sam to come to mediate, to send the message, to stop the fight, right? And then again, looking at the characters, first it is Paul, and then there is another character, Mr. Hager, the guy that is living next door. Mr. Hager unjani? Uyindoda engathembekile. Awukwazi ukuthi unkosikazi ngathi nje nixabene kwesikhashana, wena usuwenze njani, usulethe umistress. Shuthi vele no mistress ubekade njani ekhona. So Mr. Hager nje, we can just say he is untrustworthy. Uyindoda engathembekile, is untrustworthy. Okhombisa ukuthini? He cheats on his wife. Akayiphethe kahle unkosikazi wakhe. Okwesibili futhi, he is a liar. Why do you say he's a liar? Because when the police came, sebefonile abantu next door ukuthi there are gunshots, he lies ukuthi akazange azwe any gunshot. Okay? And then another character, so it is Mrs. Leonard. Mrs. Leonard umaga Paul. It's Paul's mother. Mrs. Leonard unjani? She is warm. She is also loving. She's worried about leaving her son alone at night. Movies. She's warm. She's loving. She is also very protective. Especially the 8-year-olds. She is also very protective of her son. Ukuthi simshiye singamshiyi uzoba safe yini yedwa. Ubaba wakhe uthi I know uright umfana uzokwazi ukusala yedwa. Okay? And then we look at Mr. Leonard, Paul's father. Mr. Leonard yena unjani? Mr. Leonard is very firm. He acts like a man. Ukuthi if it's ingane yomfana isikhulile angakwazi ukusala yedwa. So he is firm, noma ngabe sekhala umama ethi asikwazi ukumshiya yedwa na blah blah blah, then he says no, uPaul angasala yedwa. He is firm, and he is also a straight talker. Uyasho nje ukuthi kuzoba ukuthi and akujiki lapha, so his word is final. Noma ngabe umama uyakhala ukuthi hayi asikwazi ukumshiya umfana omncane wanani, he's a straight talk ukuthi nje hayi kuzoba kanje. And also he's very impatient. Nkathi unkosikazi lokho ebhizi eplida nani, he says no, let's go, let's leave the boy, asimshiye uzoba right umfana. And yet ngempela futhi umfana waba right. Okay, and then let's look at uDJ, All Night Sam. All Night Sam, uDJ, yena umuntu onjani? uDJ, we can say he is understanding. Ngoba ngenkathi umfana efona ethi there is a fight next door, he comes up with a plan ukuthi aka-broadcast ukuthi Mr. Hager is sorry, he needs his wife back home. So he is understanding, and futhi we can also say he's sensitive. Uyakwazi ukuzwelana mayezi ukuthi there is a fight, uyakwazi ukungenelela, akwazi ukuthi bring ama-families together. We can also say he's kind, he's sympathetic, unomusa, unozwelo, and he's helpful. Because ngokwakhe, he is helpful because yena ngokwakhe ubetshela ukuthini, ubetshela ukuthi he's bringing the couple back together, not knowing in reality ukuthi kahle kahle labantu athi uyababuyisela together, it's a mistress and ne boyfriend yakhe, it's not the married couple. Okay, and then let's look at Charlotte, the mistress. One, she fires a gunshot nje. Ithini character lo muntu odubula ngesibhamu kathathu. One, she is very loud. Unomsindo. The mere fact ukuthi ukwazile umfana ukuthi ezomsindo aze afone, qale wabhenga on the wall ukuthi hayibo, please keep your voices down. Washaya udonga, kwanhlanga zimuka nomoya, waqhubeka umsindo. She is loud, and also Charlotte is very aggressive. Umuntu aggressive umuntu owenza izinto ngeforce, because uthema iqhamuka vele umbamba uPaul wamtshela wamthreatenisha wathatha imali e510, nanokuthi the mere fact ukuthi ukwazi ukudubula isibhamu edubula so called boyfriend wakhe, it shows ukuthi she's aggressive, and she's also she's bossy. We can say she's bossy, and also she's a bully, because ukwazile ubullisha ingane encane ithukile izwe isibhamu, but uyaqhamuka yena uyethreatenisha ukuthi ingake ithi vu ayothi nje ayizwanga lutho. And also she's manipulative. Umuntu mayimanipulator usuke uzobe kanjani? If you are manipulative, ufuna izinto zenzeke ngalendlela yakho, uyakwazi umanipulator athi enganeni akube ukuthi and ngempela kwenzeka kanjalo, because ingane yagcina isaba because she threatened uPaul ukuthi enze njani, athi tell a lie, aqambe amanga, and wakwazi ukwaqamba amanga. All right, I guess bheke the figurative language, that is used in the short story. Eyokuqala nje, it is irony. Angithi irony is a figure of speech la whatever you say usuke usho the opposite of what you mean. I'll make an example nje, irony. Let's say a testing which was out of 10 marks, when you get 2 marks, then your friend comes to you and say, wow, well done. Ooh, was what you scored so many marks. That is an irony, because lo muntu uyabhoqa kahle kahle. She means, or he means the opposite. Lana ke irony la, one esitholayo yokuqala yipi? The Leonards, one, the Mr. and Mrs. Leonard, they try to do what? To protect their son, uPaul, by not taking him to the movies, because they say le movie abayibona is for adults, okay, yabantu abadala. However, uPaul is exposed. Ngithi bathele le movie abayibona yabantu abadala, but uPaul nje bemshela ekhaya. However, uPaul is exposed to a serious adult content where the husband is cheating with his mistress, bona bebethi bayi-protect ingane kanti yona ingane izobe exposed to more adult serious stuff while alone at home. There's an irony there. They think they are protecting him, but he becomes exposed to a more adult content. Okay, he is exposed to a fight. Oh, and he hears gunshots and he assumes ukuthi someone has been killed. Ucabanga ukuthi khona oshonile. And also, the irony is threatened and bullied by an adult. Ukuthi and angasho ukuthi uwazwile gunshots. Another irony ile. Mrs. Hager, she hears over the radio that her husband wakhe is pleading for her to come back home. Ucela ukuthi abuyele ekhaya. And then she thinks that she comes back home. Mayifika ekhaya, everything is upside down. Yonke into nje upside down lapha endlini yabo. And then she thinks yena ukuthi njoba yonke into ibheke phezulu kumapheqopheqo like la ifika khona endlini yakhe, it's because kade engekho. It's because of the absence of a woman. Akazi ukuthi ene kahle kahle into yenze ukuthi kube nje is because there was another woman ekade ikhona la endlini. There's an irony there. Yena she thinks ngokuhamba ngisho umyeni wami sengifika kunje la endlini. Little did she know ukuthi njoba kunje la endlini is because there was another woman that was present. And then she is the one that caused a mess. Uyena lo uCharlotte, the mistress, umnakwabo okhoze le mess eyenzeka la endlini in the house. So she thinks it's the absence of a woman that caused the mess, and yet it is the presence. She thinks it's the absence of the woman, and yet lento caused the mess, it is the presence. So there's an irony there. Absence, she thinks, but there's a presence of a woman that caused this mess that has happened in the house, right? And also there is a metaphor. A metaphor is when the music is played loud, the music is compared to a tidal wave. He says lapha a story, when you read the story, the music is compared to a tidal wave. And also another thing, another metaphor is the thickness of the mist in a microscope. Microscope Paul. The thickness of the mist is compared to milk. Microscope, the thickness of the mist microscope is compared to milk as if it is ubis, right? And also we find a simile. A simile esithola la uCharlotte. uCharlotte, when she appears la passage ezotrenisha boy, she appears, she's compared to a bed not made. Ingazuthi uboya sengathi umbhede ongazange wenziwe, or like she's an unmade bed, that she's compared to an unmade bed. There's a simile there. And also there is alliteration, repetition of the same consonant sound. The boom of the bus. There is alliteration, the repetition of the boom sound when the music is played, the boom, the sound, the boom of the bus, the sound that is coming from the radio. So there is the alliteration as well. Right, let's look at the tone now. How is the tone and the mood in this short story? The tone and the mood. There is one, we find that there's a polite tone. Into polite, into a gentle. There's a polite tone. Kanjan, the Leonards and the Haggards, they next door to each other. They have to talk softly. Because all that separates them is just a thin wall between the two. So they don't have to make noise. So there's a polite tone to avoid making noise. And also, but any footy tone, Mr. Hager and Charlotte, they are loud. They make a lot of noise. They are very loud and violent because they are fighting. So they go tone polite, toning polite la, because they have to speak softly. Got a laba. They don't accede to that. Abakwenzi lokho because they are fighting. So they make noise. And also there is a tone that is very firm. If it's firm, something that is firm into if you are firm, eqinile umile kuleyo nto uphilivela kuleyo nto. I-firm tone sithola kubala, sithola ku-Mr. Leonard, ubaba kabani, ubaba kaPaul, he's very firm. When he decides ukuthi Paul must stay at home, he cannot go to the movies because he's young, he's only 8 years, and akakwazi ukuhamba nabo. And yethu uma wakhe yena uthana hayi asambeni naye ingane izosala kanjani yodwa. But there's a firm tone. He decides that Paul must be allowed to grow up, akakhule. And ngempela kwenzekani, he grows up within that short maybe it's 2 hours or that 3 hours esele ekhaya. He does actually grow up because he is left alone at home. All right. And also there is a tone, celebratory tone. When you celebrate usuku happy ngithi celebration. Celebratory tone sithola kuphi la when Mrs. Hager comes back. Mrs. Hager thinks that nkathi ebuya yena ucabanga ukuthi umyeni wami Nkosi yami ngimshiye yedwa. When she comes back, she thinks her husband was desperate for her. That is why I even called the all-night Semu DJ ukuthi akabuyele ekhaya. And then she finds when she gets home, ngempela uyabona ukuthi husband wakhe was desperate for her to come home because she finds this mess in the room, the mess in the house makes her to think that it is due to her absence. Then she's celebrating with ngaze ngayenza into enhle, celebratory tone ukuthi Nkosi yami yazi ngokuhamba nje ngisho mina nami sekunje ekhaya. Hence Mr. Hager he was not prepared ukuthi enze njani. There was no desperation to have her back because yena ube busy a cheater with his mistress. All right. And then the mood. Injani mood in the story. In mood, there's a lot of suspense. Suspense, it's like you're sitting at the edge of the seat. If you have watched mhlambe movie, the horror movies, it's always suspense because uhlele at the edge of the seat. What is going to happen next? What is going to happen next? There is a lot of suspense here. Paul ngala esele yedwa ezoma gunshots and all that. And also in mood as well is not so, it's gloomy because it's somber because now unkosikazi uhambile ekhaya washiya, and then when she comes back ucabanga ukuthi kuyilento kanti it's not what she thinks it was. So kuningi kunama mixed, there's a lot of mixed emotions la ezinto ezenzekile within this short period of time esahambile, which shows ukuthi vele the husband was a cheat, ube vele engaziphethe kahle umkhwenyana wakhe. All right, we having done that, we are going to look at a short activity here where now you are supposed to answer questions. Remember, when you answer questions, like questions, contextual questions. What are contextual questions? Contextual questions, they give you a passage, a short passage, and usually iba now line 1 to line 20 or line 25. And then they give you questions. You are supposed to answer questions based on that activity, or on that contextual question that they've given you. Right. I guess if we questions. She dug into her purse. Ubani lo Charlotte. And it's Charlotte after there was a noise. After firing the gunshots, and then she meets this young boy. She digs into her purse. Uyabheka la person, ubheka ini bribe, ubheka ini imali azoyenza njani, azoyinika this young boy ukuze yenze njani, ithi keep quiet, ingasho ukuthi kwenzekeni, izwile yini kathi iqhuma isibhamu. She dug into her purse and brought out a perfumed much of face tissues, bobby pins, and cash. Kunazo zonke izinto la phakathi, kunama bobby pins, ekhanda lakhe kunama tissue, and then there's also cash. And then she says, here, she painted. When you're painting, usuke uphefumulela phezulu. Here, she's giving the money to the boy. She painted. It's yours. And there's an exclamation mark there. It's yours. It's an order. Charlotte is a bully. When she says it's yours, it's like she's looking at him and it's yours. In other words, it's yours, and there's more where that came from. There is more where that came from. If you keep your mouth shut, she stuffed it into his trouser pocket. She looked at him fiercely, then fled into the street. And then because she knows it is the police. And if the police came, automatically they were going to do what? They were going to arrest her. Paul ran back into his apartment, jumped into bed, and pulled the covers up over his head. In the hot, dark cave of the bed. The hot, dark cave. Bed is like he's in the hot, dark cave. A metaphor there, and then he cried because he and all night Sam had helped to kill a man. It's after Charlotte because to him it's like they've killed, because Charlotte Mr. Hager. So he thinks they were accomplices to murder because DJ Sam, they helped to kill a man. Mr. Hager is dead. And then a policeman came clamping into the house very soon, and he knocked on both apartment doors with a billy clap. Numb. When you are numb, usuke ubanda. Angithi uthukile Paul. Numb, Paul crept out of the hot, dark cave. Metaphor again. The hot, dark cave that is creeping out of is the bed, and answered his door. Just as he did, the door across the hall opened. The door across the hall opened, and there stood Mr. Hager, haggard but whole. Uyambona ukuthi uthukile but uphelele akadutshuliwe akanalutho. Yes, sir, said Hager. He was a small, balding man with a hairline mustache. Uyabona so ubaba omdala usenempandla with a hairline mustache. Can I help you? And then the policeman says, the neighbors heard some shots. Said the policeman. Really? Yambona ukuthi ngitell Mr. Hager is a liar. He's like, really? Said Hager urbanely. He dampened his mustache. He dampened his mustache with his tip of his little finger. How bizarre. So it means there's nothing like that. How bizarre. I heard nothing. He is lying. He says, I heard nothing. He looked at Paul sharply. He looked at Paul sharply. Why is he looking at Paul? Because he wants to say, Paul, don't say anything. He looked at Paul sharply. And then he says to Paul, he says to Paul, have you been playing with your father's gun again, young man? Again. And then Paul is like, oh no, sir, said Paul, horrified. Where are your folks? Said the policeman to Paul. The folks are parents. The policeman asked Paul, and then Paul yaphendula, they are at the movies. All right. Let's just look at the questions. My questions la, they gave you you are going to choose. They gave you answer 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. Utwala, complete the following sentence by using the words provided in the list. Shutwa nizogcwalisa ngamagama provided, which write down only. Mabethi write down only the words nenamba enza njengoba kunjalo ukuze ungachithi isikhathi. Write down only the words next to the question number 1A to C in the answer book. Okay. The answer there is thief. Yes, Billy, all night Sam. Yes, to crime. And then suspect, sin, Paul, and escape. The question 18. A young man called A has just witnessed B. He is confronted by the C who buys his license. So we are going to choose the correct answer here. A young man called, who is this young man? The young man called Ubani Kamalake. A young man called Ubani Kamalake. It is Ubani Paul. Paul Pelaveli is the young man. Young man called Paul has just witnessed. What has he just witnessed? He witnessed a crime because so the word number B is B. B is crime. He is confronted by the suspect who buys his silence. His suspect la who buys his silence ubani, it is Charlotte that bribes him with imali. Okay, number 2 uthi quote one word. Remember ngizolokhu ngiphinda. Remember to quote, please put the inverted commas. Khombisa ukuthi you are quoting. Quote one word from the paragraph which indicates that the woman breathed heavily. She dug into her purse and brought out a perfumed march of face tissues, bobby pins, and cash. Here she panted. So to the igama elikhombisa ukuthi she was breathing heavily, uzobhala inverted commas, and then igama is she panted. Uphefumulela phezulu. Number 3, explain why the following statement is false. Uzochaza ukuthi le statement indaba si false. The woman handed Paul some cash. Why is this statement false? Did she hand him some cash? One new cash? No. Wenzenjani? She puts money into his pocket. She didn't hand him. When you hand somebody, but she didn't hand over. She just pushed the money into his pocket to buy his silence instead of giving him a sandling. So the statement is false. Number 4, explain why Paul runs into his apartment. Line 8. Why does he run to his apartment? He is afraid. We are sabang it. He's afraid. And then always been when the parents come back, they will think because he was supposed to be inside the house and it. He's afraid. And also he's just been threatened by Charlotte. Charlotte got them threatening manje. Who shot Mr. Haga. So Charlotte Mr. Haga is dead. And now he is scared. Any of those are correct, and then it's just 2 marks. We can pick and choose. Number 5, identify and explain the figure of speech used in the line below. Number, Paul crept out of the hot, dark cave and answered the door. What is the figure of speech that is used here in number 5? It is a metaphor. The bed, umbed, is compared to a hot, dark cave. Okay, because he is hiding inside the bed. So there is a metaphor. And then number 6, refer to line 16, to line 18 and 19. Lines 18 and 19. Have you been playing with your father's gun again, young man? Oh, no, say, said Paul, horrified. It's a question, yeah? Refer to lines 18 and 19. Why does Hagar look at Paul sharply? Explain fully. Yindaba embuka kanje. Twala, explain fully. One, umenze njani? Uyayithreatenisha ingane. Ufuna ithuke. He is threatening the boy to say nothing about the gunshots. Ukuthi nje ayithi ayizwanga lutho. Ayizange nje izwe nje iqhuma any spam. So, and also uyasaba. Mr. Hagar is afraid that the boy might have heard the argument phakathi kwakhe and his mistress. Okunye futhi, he doesn't want Paul to say anything about the gunshots to the police. To the police. Paul must deny hearing any gunshots. Any of those answers ungawabhala and they are correct. Number 7, refer to line 20. Oh no, say, said Paul, horrified. Explain. Batila explain the use of no say. Why does A explain the use of no say? So he speaks quickly. No say. He speaks quickly because he is terrified. Boy. Why is Paul terrified? To see, he has been threatened by Uchalot. And then he has just he's told that he has just been threatened by Uchalot, and he is futhi amanga to the police. Right. Number 8, refer to line 21. Where are your folks? Said the policeman to Paul. The word folks refers to uyakhethala. A, B, C, D. A, the word folks refers to neighbors. B refers to friends. C to parents. D to siblings. So the answer is C. Your folks are your parents. So the answer is C. Number 9. How do you know that Hagar is not very young? Mr. Hagar. Yinesi eskombisayo ukuthi akekho young. 1. He is referred to as a small, balding man. So useqala ukuba nani nempandla with a hairline of a mustache akhe amadeva now futhi asenjani asemancane. So he is balding, which shows that unjani is no longer young, but he is old. Number 10. What does Paul refer to when he says it's an adventure? Ukhuluma ngani Paul mayikhuluma adventure? Okay, he refers to a type movie his parents are out to watch. Abazali bakhe bamtshela ukuthi imovie abayibona it's an adventure. Okay? Is Hagar cheating on his wife? Uya cheat? Support your answer by making reference to the whole story. The question like Mr. Hagar, is he cheating on his wife? Yes or no? And also, say yes, you are going to support your answer referring to the whole story. If it's no, you are going to support referring to the whole story. Of course, the answer like it is obvious. The answer is yes. Mr. Hagar is cheating on his wife. Why? Because the woman he is arguing with, DJ, is not his wife. It is a mistress or a girlfriend. So, and then another woman arrives to make up with him. Another woman that arrives to make up with him is the real wife, Mrs. Hagar. So, Paul is, the answer is yes. He is cheating on his wife because the wife is not there. The person that he was arguing with, the person that they had a fight with was a mistress. So he is cheating on his wife. And then you get full marks for answering. As long as you refer to the whole story, read. Funda wonke ama stories, because you cannot answer from context leyo kuphela. I-context leyo asebekuyona, it refers to the whole story, sonke i-story as such. So awukwazi ukuphendula all the questions if you are not going to refer to the whole story. Story sonke asibe uyasazi usifundile, so that it's easy for you to do what? To answer the questions. Thank you very much for this lesson. Siyabonga. We hope kukhona nikufundile, and we'll see you next time. Thank you so much. Bye.
Siyathemba nifunde kahle nasithokozela isifundo sethu sanamhlanje. Enisethulelwe ngezilokotho ezinhle Ithala libambisene neGo Digital SA Foundation. Thamelani ke futhi esilandelayo ngesikhathi sifanayo. Ningakhohlwa ukumema nabanye abafundi bebanga le-12 ukuze nabo basizakale kulolu hlelo. Uma ninemibuzo noma nifisa ukuxhumana nathi, ningasithinta ngokufaka imibuzo yenu kwinombolo yethu ye-WhatsApp ethi 068 151 1072. Mfundi, ungakhohlwa ukubhala isifundo obuza ngaso ngaphambi kokubhala umbuzo wakho. Angiyiphinde inamba yethu 068 151 1072. Siyabonga.